I see a camera there on the. Yeah, it's a cannon.
Oh, of course, Wade comes up.
Wade.
With that guy that comes up. That's the last question. The guy before.
It's a nice one.
Obviously, a question that they're all legally we can't answer that episode that hasn't come out yet. They're trying to ask, like, well, what's there after that says part? I'm like,
it's Silverquill continuity.
oh yeah, but if we just tell you that now, then you'd be like, okay, ready.
Well, not working. Nope. Nope.
I just came to read the good music, that's all.
Lies.
Yes. Oh,
There you go.
There's my voice.
Continuity.
Loud and proud. I'm quite pleased. Thank you.
He's so glimmery.
Hey, Golden Quill.
Golden Quill.
Right. Guys, thank you for coming to Everfree Northwest 2018. How are y'all doing? Excellent. Well, thank you for coming to The Cake is a Lie. But don't worry, you're not going to have to run any complex portal mixes.
Darn it.
And as a courtesy, all rhubarb has been checked at the door. Hey guys, thank you. We are about to welcome on a cast of very talented voice actors here to talk with us about the show and about some preconceptions we may have. So, let's start things off with Zephyr Breeze's voice actor. You may know him from A&W commercials, where he is a bit of a self-unaware employee. Probably a joy to work with, but I wouldn't want to eat food from him. He's also played Leo on Mech X4, the Were-Lizard in the X-Files, and Jimmy on iZombie. Please welcome Ryan Beal.
Ryan.
Thank you for remembering my chant.
God bless the Cubs!
Thank you, every one of you.
Next up is a man who is well known for his role,
Stay with my hair.
not just on My Little Pony, but on other shows. He's been Serpent Set and Khan on Conan the Adventurer, Golem from Monster Rancher, Oolong, King Fury, and Captain Ginyu of Dragon Ball Z, Omega Red of X-Men Evolution, Vector Prime from Transformers Cybertron. The con will be over before I list his full filmography. We celebrate him as Rhinox of Beast Wars and Beast Machines and Frankie Doodle Donkey. Please welcome Richard Newman.
A little bit.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
And next we have a man who has just recently debuted on the show as Star Swirl the Bearded. He's also been Father Williams from Kung Fu, The Legend Continues, Mr. Sinister and Nathaniel Essex from X-Men, a ghost on Goosebumps, which his voice will give you goosebumps. Dr. Doom of Iron Man, Armored Adventures, and Odin of Thor, Tales of Asgard. Please welcome Chris Britton. Now, one of our guests is running just a little behind. He'll be joining us soon. Boo.
Friggin' Bill.
But that's okay, because we have a voice actor of multiple characters. He's played in the Beyblade series. Why did they make a series that complex? He's also had an extensive video game career in StarCraft, Warcraft 1, 2, and 3. He's also played the game. He's also been part of the game Grey Goo. He also seems to like games with very complex names that are hard to roll off the tongue. But we know him as Bright Macintosh, Pharynx, Stygian, and the Pony of Shadows. Please welcome Bill Newton.
Hello.
What's up, Bill?
Thank you, Scott.
That is the ego check service that Everfree provides. It's actually very helpful. Yes. I've gotten 5 of those from them today.
Thank you, Scott.
Now, before we begin with questions proper, people come a long way, and I think it's only proper to give them gifts of thanks. Do not agree?
No, I agree completely.
Yep, 100% agree.
Excellent.
It's cash, right?
Oh, well, I spent cash on it. Does that count?
Well, just give me the cash.
First and foremost, with Ryan, you've had a long career as a comedian, including part of an improv comedy troupe.
True.
And you've played this A&W character who is wonderfully absent-minded at times.
I have played it, yes.
And now he plays Everfree, who has, you love how low confidence he can be. But I worry. I worry that playing such a role might take its toll on you. And therefore I offer this emergency self-esteem kit.
I really needed that this morning. Really did when I woke up. Oh, it's a mirror! Oh,
There's a mirror right underneath that says, "You're awesome!"
yeah.
Richard?
Stickers. Thank you.
Richard, I'm going to save you for last. But Chris, you have a goatee, yes?
I do.
It's quite mighty. But it could be mightier.
Uh-oh.
Should you ever need... As Star Swirl the Bearded, I have a beard. But you don't have to put it on, but it'd be wonderful to see.
Put it on.
Put it on! Put it on! Put it on! Put it on!
That is a chant. Legally, you have to do it.
Ah, there's a hairnet, yes. The bane of all.
Here we go.
That's
Beautiful.
Everybody can come up one at a time, sit in his meeting, tell him what you want for Christmas.
Yeah. Or it could be the talking beard. Whenever we're answering a question, we have to put on the beard.
Chris, that beard doesn't look itchy at all.
Thank you, Chris. That's fantastic.
And Bill, you have played a multitude of characters.
I have.
Who have felt maybe a little underloved or felt great abundance of love. Right now, you probably had the greatest romance episode in My Little Pony.
I mean, of all time, I think.
Of all time.
Yeah,
That's right. Romeo and Juliet got nothing on this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, happy ending better than sad ending.
Well, bittersweet.
Also, Pharynx, he felt great love for the colony, despite being aggressive. But poor Stygian, he didn't feel maybe the love that he should receive, and thus became the Pony of Shadows.
I agree.
So, I think we need to share a little love.
Okay.
With the love potion.
What number?
Love potion number 9.
There we go.
That's the good one. That's the highly potent.
That's highly potent. It seems superfluous. These folks already love you. And then
I need to read this when I'm not at a con, though. Like, my everyday life.
And this book is a little complex, so I wanted to save it for last. Now, as I understand, from what I've learned, if not for a decision or one role, we might not have you here today. That at one point in your career, you felt the voice acting wasn't working out so well. But then you were cast as Mr. Big on the Power Team?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I heard a what. That's exactly the reaction I expected. This is not a show that's aged well, but okay. If anyone ever gives you grief about watching a show about pastel ponies, I watched a mobster get foiled weekly by a barbarian, an NBA star, an anthropomorphic tomato, and a monster truck. That was a show. That was a thing.
That was Video Power, yes, it was. It was one of the first cartoon video things, and it was, God, whoever it was that was producing all these games took all these heroes and villains from all these games and mushed them into the same show. And I wound up playing 2 villains and 1 hero one summer. 40 episodes we did in one summer, and it was the beginning of my voice career. It was quite a bit of fun.
So even though the show may not have been, it's not widely remembered, it was the start of you coming here, Transformers, it's fantastic. And when I learned of this, I had to make a gift. Mr. Big, the main antagonist of the show.
He talks something like this all the time.
And in that he had cigar-themed weapons He had cigars that launched flashbangs, cigars that launched rockets.
Wow.
Remember, smoking kills. So up to you, I wish to present a grenade cigar. Also, because hot topic is weird that pop comes off and it's a Cologne. Oh, it doesn't go up.
How's he gonna get that on the plane?
Very carefully.
Thank you so much.
You know, Cranky, you must have been very lucky to have Matilda.
Yeah.
That's the truth. But here we are. So, and like we say, we're waiting on our one more, but I think we can get started with some questions. Big part of this panel is we have several very talented actors playing very well-defined male characters in a show that's marketed towards young women. And I think from the attending audience, we can say that it's aimed at girls does not mean everyone can't enjoy it. They can bring a lot of talent and great characters. But, oh, wait, I think we have our last
Jason!
I like to Hey guys.
Jason!
Jason Delatte.
That's me. Hey, how are you?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Well, I feel underdressed.
Well, everyone, I'm the portable lighting situation.
What's your name, sir?
I go by Tim, but also Silver Quill.
Silver Quill. Nice to meet you.
And
He's got a gift for you.
I do.
Sorry to keep you guys.
Not to worry.
Uber, am I right?
The guru is Bo Hothoff, father of Rainbow Dash, Grace Cheerer in the show, along with his wife. You put a lot of energy in that. I'm surprised you didn't throw your voice out with all that.
Who says I didn't?
Okay.
So presumptuous. Jeez.
Yes, I am.
Put a gold suit on. You think you can say whatever you like?
I think I can give you an award, sir.
Oh wow! Now I'm the jerk. Okay.
You were always the jerk.
Hey, who's that?
Most spirited.
Most spirited. Oh, I like that. Thank you. It's empty. Who's got the scotch?
Hey, you can share a little love.
That's true. I have some strawberry love potion.
Really? Yeah. What is it?
I think it's bath salts.
Yeah.
Bath salts? Anyone want their face eaten?
You can actually drink it.
This guy wants his face eaten. Shave that beard, pal. We'll talk.
All right. But in entertainment, especially, there's a lot of assumptions about characters, how they're supposed to behave. And My Little Pony has done a good job of sometimes subverting them, sometimes playing them up, sometimes going along with it. So we're just going to talk about some of the characters and voices. And I have just a few questions before we open up to the audience.
Okay.
We're going to start with the topic of aggression. Males are often expected in shows to be the more aggressive. Now, Richard, I'd start with you because you've played a lot of characters like Golem, Rhinox, Vector Prime. Very often the characters you played are calm, quiet, very gentle, but when the time comes, they're some of the strongest people on the team. And Cranky, though he's not called upon to fight, he's had many adventures. Have you any thoughts on how people can employ aggression in healthy ways?
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, basically, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to, put yourself forward to do that thing that you think you want to do with your life, and rather than sitting back, kind of push yourself forward. So, yeah, I think a certain amount of aggression is necessary to succeed. It's finding the balance. It's certainly always finding the balance, which I don't think Cranky's done at all. He's still just angry.
He's cranky.
Never did get that ice cream he wanted. Bitter about it even now. I don't know.
And Bill, it's a similar situation with Brightman, especially when he had to confront Pear Butter's father, saying, "I'm the one who knocked over the water tower, so don't blame her, blame me." He's not hostile, but is there a certain aggression to confronting?
I think more assertiveness. It's that he knew what was right to do and needed to confront it, even though this is the patriarch of the family that is his beloved, and he knew he needed to face up to that, and that's sort of the better part of valor in that sense. So that's what he felt he needed to do, and I think it was assertiveness more than aggression, but similar.
Jason, you've worked on the Beyblade series quite a bit.
Correct.
And I can't say that name properly this time.
I love it. After you said Beyblade, all I heard in the audience was. I love Bay fans. You know.
Oh, it's a show with but it's a show with a lot of competition.
Correct.
A lot of shouting. Again.
3, 2, 1, let it rip. I'm also on that show.
Are you?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's about me, Bill. Settle down.
That's true. I stumbled all my Beyblade pronunciations when introducing him. That's Beyblade, folks.
There's a crossover I'd love to see.
Beyblade and Bugs
But when you're voicing these young, competitive people, do you put a lot of aggression into the voices, or is there a different finesse to having a character in a competition?
Well, in Beyblade, I played a guy named Benkei, who was this large. He started out as a bully kind of character, and gradually became one of the good guys. But yeah, he was a hothead, and it was tricky because a lot of that stuff was just him being frustrated. He thought he was the best, and he was constantly losing, and he wasn't quite as good as he thought he was. But in times when he was frustrated, I tried to bring some, I don't know, to be pretentious, or some emotional depth to it, and to sort of, that one's tricky because it was a dubbing series, so all the animation's already done, so you can't create new stuff for them to animate to, so you're kind of at the mercy of what's happening on screen. But I did try to bring sort of a sadness to him when he was disappointed or when he was losing, so we could hopefully see that this aggressive front was more of his shield type of thing. I don't think anyone's a real fan of one-dimensional characters. It's kind of boring to have someone just at one speed all the time. So, I tried to bring some humanity to him. That's something I lack, so I don't know if it worked.
Don't sell yourself short.
Oh! Thank you. Don't sell myself short. Okay, one day at a time, right, brother?
But speaking of carrying things forward, do you apply some of that towards Pharynx in an episode where he's kind of bullying the rest of the hive and is trying to find his place?
Absolutely, yeah. It's more, as Jason was saying, it's more from a place of frustration that anger and perceived aggressiveness comes from. He's just trying to do what he thought was right and what he needed to do, and it's that frustration of feeling like other people aren't understanding exactly where that is coming from, and that can present as a sort of a pent-up frustration and anger. But not really at anyone in particular. It comes out as a crankiness, just a sort of a general anger. But it's more, I think, from a place of frustration, from lack of understanding.
It took me a long time to realize in my own life that people who are angry are actually hurting and sad. And, once you go through your own sort of journey through that, you start to have empathy towards those people. And people get angry at you, it's great to be able to not get angry back and elevate things and to, say, I hear you, and try to de-escalate it. And it doesn't happen in any of the cartoons, but there's a life lesson for you, kids and adults.
Actually, speaking of life lessons, Chris, we need to apply a little bit of real life to this, because as I understand it, you worked with Amnesty International to free some imprisoned artists.
Yes. In 1980, I started to look into...
Good year.
I became involved with Amnesty and discovered that there wasn't a separate sort of section of Amnesty that worked for the freedom of imprisoned artists around the world. And I was encouraged to pursue that, and I don't know whether you're familiar with the author Michael Ondaatje or Rosemary Sullivan. And there's a painter in Canada called Tony Urquhart, and we were the four signatories to that we had to present to the plenary of Amnesty International in 1980-81, and there was a lot of opposition to it, but it was passed, and that was the first within Amnesty International that would work strictly for imprisoned artists, which there are a great many of still today, poets, writers, filmmakers, who are considered a threat by certain regimes around the world.
Is there something these people can do to help support that effort?
Well, Amnesty is still a very ongoing organization, and if you are interested in that, you can certainly contact your local Amnesty office, and your particular interest can be a part of the letter writing campaign to donate to Amnesty as well.
And would it be presumptive to say that we're talking about aggression? It sounds like you have to have the drive, as everyone's talked about, to stand up for what you believe without perhaps reacting with pure anger, but making a strong stand to make sure you're heard.
Yes, but along that theme, sometimes when good intentions and positive human nature doesn't accomplish what should be accomplished, anger and aggression can perhaps push it further. In the sense on a personal level, a lot of the injustices around the world make me angry and make a great many people angry, and that can be a very positive driving force, but only to a certain extent. So that is one aspect of anger that can be a motivating factor.
Ryan, how do I follow that up? Thanks for coming, everybody. Sorry, we've been rendered invalid. Good night. Right, I don't think anyone would accuse Zephyr Breeze of being highly aggressive.
Well,
except maybe Rainbow Dash.
Yeah.
He pursues her affections.
Yeah. He's aggressive in how much he loves himself. For sure. How awesome he is. But something like that left unchecked without a healthy dose of self-deprecation or awareness can be not the best situation. So,
yeah, interestingly seeing Rainbow Dash with someone with an even bigger ego.
I appreciate the comments, but we're going to have Q&A very shortly. I just want to open up a few other questions. Speaking of body styles, Zephyr is unique because he's the only character we're talking about who's been featured in both My Little Pony and Equestria Girls.
Right.
Have you seen both forms?
I have. I like his vest. I wish he was wearing a shirt underneath it. But, to each their own. I'm not the fashion police, clearly. Most of my t-shirts are cuff related. And I'm not wearing any socks right now.
It's true.
You don't need socks. Socks are a lie. They're a lie. The government is trying to sell you on. Just wear shoes.
Yeah. Now we get to the real truth.
Yeah.
Like the socks! And the truth goes down the tubes.
Hey! Well, that's good. It's a good pun.
But I'm wondering, because we have Zephyr as this lanky pony, while Zephyr in the human form is kind of a little bit more built, does that
shredded
change advances in Rainbow at all?
I don't know. I mean, because in my head, when I was doing both of those scripts, it was always I wasn't really picturing Zephyr as a human. I was still picturing him as this pony with a 5 o'clock shadow and a top bun. So for me, perhaps it does, but in my mind during the script, it didn't. What's the question about? Well, it certainly doesn't change anything for Rainbow. I mean, his personality outweighs any possible bonuses on any other side of the coin. But I don't know.
Well, there's a duality in entertainment. A lot of people criticize that with shows of men or young men in cartoons, the body types are usually extremes. You're either super buff like Johnny Bravo, or you got kind of a swelling belly like George Jetson. And so I'm just curious if...
personally attacked right now. Why are you sitting next to Jason? Why are you sitting next to Jason?
At least I didn't wear the Captain America shirt today.
That's true. Thank you.
Well, mostly, I think there is a difference. Like when you voice Stygian, he's a very little pony. He's but then the big pony of Shadows. You mentioned how much you love playing villains and to go for the insane scientist with the. Do you guys? This is a question to all. Do you see the characters you're voicing before you take on the roles, or do you only find out after the show's put together?
Usually we get to see it.
That's great.
Yeah, usually they'll have like a little sketch. Not always. There have been times where it's just a description that you're given. But I think on all the episodes I've done of Pony, there was a sketch of the character, so I was like, okay, I can kind of work with this. But often you don't get that until after the audition, so you can make some adjustments later. So like the audition, sometimes you'll just get the words, and you'll make a choice then. And then there'll be a sketch in the booth on the day of the record, and you can make some adjustments then. At least that was what happened to me.
Any aspiring animation directors, writers, artists out there, please do that whenever you can. It really helps us inspire us to get closer to what the character should sound like. I think.
Oh yeah.
And give us sides more than 6 minutes before the audition. That'd be really nice too.
An actor prepared.
Oh, and more than 2 lines is good too. It's pretty hard to try to boil an entire character down to 2 sentences.
We're not blaming you for every hardship we've ever experienced.
It is so tough being
Quite therapeutic.
Being an actor is the worst, right?
My little Everfree, blaming is magic.
We make fun of you from time to time, so it's only fair we can take and dish out.
But with body types, another stereotype is the more masculine and broad-chested you are, the more you are the leader of the group. But this was, okay, child of the 80s here. I remember all sorts of cartoons that did this, but big example is Freddy from Scooby-Doo. Mm-hmm. It's like, Scooby, Shaggy, I want you to be the babe, be good in danger, I'll be over here with the ladies. But My Little Pony has subverted that a lot. The characters you play are often very powerful in magic or physical form. They're very well experienced. But they're usually the ones in need of help or guidance. So just going down the line, is there a character that stands out to you as he was strong but he needed guidance emotionally or in direction to find some balance? It doesn't have to be from My Little Pony. It can be from any show you've voiced for. No pressure.
Well, of course Zephyr needed that. Zephyr, I mean, I'll just start because my resume isn't as long as the rest of these guys with voice acting. Zephyr, he needed the push to find his truth and to stop being so caught in the weeds of his own delusional sort of egotistical nature, and he got to do it in a song form too. So there you go.
Wonderful song, by the way.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, and at the end of season 7, Star Swirl is made aware of his own failings in terms of his relationship with Stygian and sort of the attitude that he brought to the first part of the episode 25, I think, or 26. And he learns from 1 or 2 of the female ponies what he wasn't aware of before, and apologizes. And I think there's a great example of female pony power.
Well, of course, the first episode in which you meet Cranky, he's brought back to life, really, by Pinkie Pie, who finds out his story and finds his ex-wife or his fiancée, and so makes his life a good thing again. So, yeah, it's interesting. to play a character who is so bitter and winds up being made whole again by a young person, a young female person.
Pharynx, I think, is a perfect example also of somebody who was so stubborn and steadfast in what they believed they needed to do. They were shown by the pony. He was shown by the ponies that don't need to do that anymore, to protect the hive, and this sort of overly performative masculinity isn't required. You don't have to do this. You can, it's okay to soften a little. And he does a bit. He doesn't change who he is deep down, but it's that sort of that edge is taken off.
Okay, Bo Hot Hub was only in one episode. It's hard to believe because it's everybody's favorite episode. Hopefully, coming back. But so I haven't had a huge arc for that character, but I really liked that he felt like an atypical masculine character. When I first saw the drawing, he looked a little buff and he had the mohawk going on, and I thought he looked pretty cool, kind of like a tough guy. And then when I read the script, I was so happy that Rainbow Dash's parents hadn't abandoned her after all. I think everybody was happy about that. Finally meet them, and I think they're pretty great parents. They're over the top with that smothering love that some of us have experienced in our lives. That later in life we're thankful for, but at the time it's. I really liked that story about how they were just so proud of their daughter and believed in her, and even though they found out she kept secrets from them, they were still supportive. Even when she was embarrassed, they were hurt a little bit, but I just love that whole dynamic of the journey of her being embarrassed and realizing who her parents are. And I like the idea of this guy who sounds like a tough guy, looks like a tough guy, and is totally fine with just showing all the love he can to his kids. And the generation that raised my generation wasn't always great at that, and men weren't always encouraged to be the huggy and the lovey and the encouraging. It was sort of what the mom did while the guy went with a briefcase to work or something like that. So I love that they made him still this masculine guy, strong guy, but showed his emotions, and I think that's important for people to see.
The truth is, I have loads more questions, but I've already taken up a lot of your time, and we want to make sure that folks in the audience get a chance. So before we bring up the lights and open the floor to questions, we've got a mic set up in the center. There's just one conditional. There have been leaks online, there have been leaked episodes, there might have been episode summaries. I'm asking no questions regarding those, please. We're going to talk about what has aired and ideas, but we don't want to give away anything for folks who've been working to avoid those spoilers.
Thank you.
So no talking about Rainbow Dash's death in episode 3. That death is a secret. It is a good thing Ashley's not here. Well, she died too. Sorry to break it to you. Oh, I'm kidding.
My little Everfree, Grim Darkness Magic. Can we...
The Slender Man got her.
Oh, the Slender Man.
Oh, no, it's so scary. Stop scaring me, Jake.
Can we turn up the lights a little?
This unicorn guy over there has to get up here to this mic, because he put his hand up like 6 times. I see you, unicorn guy.
There may be more than one.
It's a great pony name.
That's true.
Unicorn guy.
Might be more. Yeah, there's a lot of unicorn guys.
With all these silhouettes by the lights, I feel like...
Oh!
Hey, everybody.
That's nice.
Nice to see you.
Oh!
We can see.
Lovely faces.
What an assortment of facial hair. This is incredible. Every shape and configuration. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Cadet.
Hi, Cadet.
Hi. I was actually thinking about, there's a difference between
These mics are stupid, sorry. Get right on it. Get this close.
I have to get really close.
There you go.
There you go.
Kiss
All
it.
right, so I was thinking about the difference between stage performance and vocal performance and camera performances. You generally have to like prep yourself physically as well for those kinds of things. What do you do vocally in terms to like? Because I know you'll be in the booth for like 4 or 5 hours. Like, what do you do to warm up and to make sure that you don't break or like have any just terrible experiences afterwards?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And we discussed a bit of it yesterday, as a matter of fact, but there are a few things where not much clothing. Like what I mean is, I go in usually just wearing a t-shirt.
No pants.
Because, and because usually, especially with sort of villains or high-energy characters, you put out a lot of energy and you become quite hot. And plus, some characters don't require that amount of energy. And the same would apply, in a sense, in terms of vocal warm-up stage, as well as animation. Not so much for film and television, but certainly for animation. And I usually play characters that require quite a bit of energy, so that's important, is to be vocally warmed up, because if not, after about half an hour or an hour, you can be quite hoarse. So you don't want to.
No pun I teach voiceover workshops, and one of the things that I try to drill into my students is that clarity is probably the most important thing. I see people doing fan dubs and stuff like that, and it's a little bit mumbly. And so what I do before I go into a session, an audition or a session, or working on a play, I do this trick. If I don't have a lot of time, I count from 1 to 10, and then 10 to 1 really fast, and then I do it again with my tongue out as fast as I can, as far as I can. And that obstruction in your mouth, some people will bite a cork instead, but that obstruction in your mouth forces your mouth to sort of work around it. And then when you bring your tongue back in, or take the cork out, your mouth is now ready to say words, especially when it's words that you don't say every day, like maybe equestria or something like that. And sometimes these scripts are pretty dense, so you have to say things really quickly. So I always say, and if you have a chance to work with a script or something, if you have a chance to do a bunch of that script with your tongue out and at different speeds, that helps me find where the pauses are, stuff that I can rush past. But yeah, clarity to me is the most important thing. We have to know what is being said. That's the only tool in our arsenal, is our voice. We don't have the benefit of facial expressions and movement. So that's the thing for me. And before, I also hum a lot. Just a deep hum is a good way to warm up your vocal cords without damaging them at all.
And some people are way forward in your mouth if you hum. It's like, so imagine when you hum, your voice is becoming more present in the front of your mouth, which is aids with clarity.
Right. I was going to say that, but Ryan cut me off.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you.
And drink a lot of water.
Yes, hydration.
And whiskey.
I was going to say,
Whiskey will work
Before or after drink?
for those short sessions.
Absolutely.
But if you're going to go for the long ones, that whiskey will come back.
Yeah. The cocaine.
Yeah.
Kidding. Do drugs, things cool. What's your name?
Joshua.
Joshua.
First of all, thank you for coming.
Pleasure.
I'd like to ask, a lot of you have done work on like anime and other action-oriented shows. What's it like to go to a show that's completely different?
Oh, you don't shout as much. Yeah, voice, that's for sure. Well, it's really pleasant. I mean, whatever we're doing, it's fun. We get paid to pretend to be other people. It's like we've never grown up. We're all playing cops and robbers for all our lives. So whatever we get to do, I mean, everything is different. So everything becomes a challenge. To go from playing Rhinox to playing Cranky Doodle Donkey, it's a very, very different world. And it's just a wonderful challenge to be able to jump into something totally different.
Can you say Cranky Doodle Donkey again in your beautiful adult voice? Cranky Doodle Donkey.
With dubbing for anime, there is a slightly different skill set, and that because you have to time it to the moving lips of the
Flaps.
character that is speaking another language. So there is a time, there's a countdown, and then you have to do it within that framework. And, that's another skill that one develops after a certain...
Do any of you guys remember a time where the timing was really bad and you had to rewrite the line or something? Like, it's like, hi, how are you?
Yeah, like a whole sentence that has to be done in that.
Yeah.
And you just go, this isn't going to fit. And so you try to figure out with the director, they just go like, there is no way. Or you just go like, oh, hello, how are you doing?
Anybody done fan dubs and run into this before? Anybody? Yeah?
Yeah, like you try to have, like you got, this is going to be a fantastic line. Oh, I've got half a second. Yeah, it's essentially you can do the line 5-6 times in anime, whereas we get to actually sort of let the lines breathe a little when we do something prelay, like My Little Pony. We get to actually sort of, you can't quite take the dramatic pauses you might want to. I keep being guilty of it, and then Terry Klassen will just be like, you gotta pace it up, you gotta pace it up. I'll be like, I want to act, Terry.
It's so fun though too to put in those little like little funny noises just to see how the animators are going to handle it.
Well, yeah, and if you, I like the way that Terry describes the unintentional ones, the snarky poos. A little snarky poo on the end there.
Snarky poo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, bud. That answer your question, Joshua?
Yes.
Great. What's your name, sir?
I'm Andy.
Andy. That's not the name I expected.
Pharynx.
There you go.
This is a question for the married ponies and donkey. I love that there are some really wonderful married guys, and how is that different to be married in MLP compared to the other characters you played that were married?
Gosh, I've never played another married character.
Me neither.
I don't. Well, all the characters I've played in Beyblade are far too young to be married. And all of the ones in
at least in North America,
things like World Trigger, they're too busy trying to save the world to be married.
Star Swirl's a bachelor.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing that I can compare Cranky to is Franklin's dad, and they're substantially different. Because Franklin's dad is basically just my voice talking to my kid, which is how I wound up getting the part.
Sweet gig.
Well, I was in Toronto doing a play, and when the play opened, I kind of called around to the various studios and said, I'm a voice actor from Vancouver, so they brought me in. The casting director said, oh, I know you. You do this and this and this and this. Mostly known for do not fail me. So she said, this part is wrong for you, but come in and meet the folks. So I kind of went in, and there was this turtle father. And I had no idea, so I just started pretending I was talking to my kid, and I wound up getting the gig.
And you said, do not fail me.
Not quite a little work with it.
Do not fail me.
Do you work that into everything? Like there's an Arby's commercial? Like,
not fail.
I heard you on the phone with Sophie.
It's actually my answering machine. Do not fail.
Please be true. Please be true.
Change it today. Change it today.
That's it, I'm doing it. Leave a message after the tone. Do not fail.
Yes.
Oh, man.
For a limited time at Arby's, do not
Dude, you should be selling that to people to put on their answering machine. Am I right?
Somebody's just got a catch.
I want that.
Thank you guys, that was funny.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers. We did not answer your question.
Probably not.
Did we? Okay, cut that part out. We totally did.
No, but it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I'm very happily married pony. What's your name, sir?
Cruiser for short, concert cruiser.
What's up? Concert cruiser?
Yeah.
He cruises concerts.
Yeah, I just saw Ozzy Osbourne this week.
Oh yeah?
Ozzy, Godsmack, Breaking Benjamin, Five Finger Death Punch.
Nice.
Yeah. He's been going to these things since 1998. I'm a lot older than I look.
I always thought it was weird that they didn't just call themselves Death Punch. I assume both punches.
It's actually the name of a Japanese kung fu movie.
Oh no, it makes sense.
Yeah, there you go.
What can we do for you, concert?
Okay, well, you guys kind of answered one question earlier for me. So I have two questions here, one for you, Bill, and one for you, Chris. Bill, with Pharynx, would you say his frustration was more out of tough love? Because coming from paramilitary parents, I kind of recognize the behavior of that. My dad, was a police officer, and he did his best to at least keep me in line. He had that balance of like a love and fear, I guess you can say, to make sure you kind of stay in line, for lack of a better word. And Chris, what was it like working with the late great Robin Williams?
Do you want to go first, Chris?
I'll tell you one story,
Please.
and it, I might tear up a bit here. He was a very kind, gentle guy, and there was one scene that was taking place in a funeral parlor, and we had just finished lunch, and the extras were lining up along the sidewalk and going into the set. And Robin stood at the entrance, and for every one of those extras that went in there, he did a little bit. He said something to them, he did a little voice, he did something, but he was greeting each and every one of them. And I stood there, it was like watching a stand-up routine, and he was doing it to make them feel that they were part of this film set, and he was really a remarkable man, and he was quiet, gentle, he was present in the scene, and it was a wonderful pleasure to meet him.
I should have gone first. Sorry, you hated Robin, right? Not just kidding.
I can't. No, come on, man. So I think
get you in trouble.
I think to answer your question about Pharynx, yes, I think it's that tough love thing, and it's that idea that that's all he's known, and that's how he knows to care for the people he cares about, and it's that idea of he learns through the course of that episode and being shown that you don't need to do that. That there are alternative ways to protect the ones you love and show the ones you love that you love them. And it's that idea of that's all he's known, and that's not necessarily his fault. He can be shown these other ways, and it's that sort of receptiveness, like he gets it. That's the thing, is that I think that a lot of people aren't afforded necessarily that empathy, that kindness of just like, well, maybe this is just what they've always known. So when he's given that sort of revelation, he's open to changing his ways. It doesn't change who he is, but it just changes his behavior.
Kind of just shows love for them by protecting the place.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We're at about, officially you got the 10-minute mark. I think we can fudge that just a little, but
Talk fast.
we still got a full
Hey,
one,
Shani.
so direct
Hello.
questions.
Practice your
Okay.
questions.
All right, already got that. I've always wanted to say this for each and every one of you. Of course, until season 6, My Little Pony's male characters were known to be questionable among the audience. I think you all were the perfect representation for male characters. But before you all had gotten to each of your roles, especially Bill, Jason, Chris, and Ryan, was it a challenge to go beyond the fans' expectations before season 6 of their thoughts of male characters? Because there weren't too many in the show before season 6. Was it a challenge for you all?
I don't know about everybody else. I was only sort of peripherally familiar with the show, so and I think that some of the others will agree with their answers, is that the best thing to do when trying to, give a truthful performance is not to necessarily look at what's gone before. We take the material, so I think a lot of that is probably going to come down to the writers and maybe the change in, who is organizing and running the show in that sense. We work with the material that we have, and we bring what we can to that material, and so that, I think, plays the bigger part. It's one of those ones where if you come onto a series, especially if you're doing a character that might be related to, or a reimagining of a character that's already existed, it's dangerous to, at least in my mind, to look at the way it was done before, because
I agree on
that can inform you a little in maybe the wrong direction. You then don't get to bring your idea to it, or what the material is saying. It colours it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, well said. Very good answer. Yep. Yeah. I felt just a general challenge. I didn't have any I was just nervous to be on the show in general, let alone narrowing those challenges down to specific ones. I just wanted to do a good job.
Yeah, we all know it's a big show that's important to a big fandom.
Yeah.
So it wasn't specifically about the male characters necessarily. It was just like, I want to do a good job because this is a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's your name, sir?
Raymond.
Raymond. Everybody loves you.
That's not what they said down in California. No.
Yeah, they don't like you down there. What's your question?
I wanted to ask, do you ever change the script to add a joke, either intentionally or accidentally?
Yes. Terry sometimes allows me to improvise a little bit, and when he gives me the green light, I kick it into fourth gear and see what I'm going to do.
What are your favorite jokes that come about from things like that?
I mean, generally when I get to, I can't remember specifically, but he's allowed me to drone on a few times, and it's hard to remember what, without cross-referencing what was me, what was writing, but off the top of my head, I can't remember. You'll just have to take my word for it.
Do you have a favorite one, Raymond?
I actually don't know have anything. Usually the jokes just blow right over my head. I don't catch jokes very well, but unless of course I'm watching with friends, because they catch it and then it's like, oh, that's a joke there.
Those are some good friends.
Yeah.
This show's more fun when watched with friends. So.
Yes,
absolutely.
Right.
Thanks, Raymond.
Thank you, Raymond.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello. What's your name?
James.
Hey, James.
So, this is a question I love asking actors when I go to conventions like this.
Uh-oh.
So, who are some of your biggest inspirations that got you into acting, and the ones that have influenced your acting style?
Billy West, man.
Woo!
He's
Billy
my
West.
hero.
Gene Wilder is mine. Very good. He's my guy.
I'm very much a fan of the great English stage actors, Shakespearean actors, Olivier and Alec Guinness and those guys.
Nice.
I grew up watching, and Humphrey Bogart.
Bridge on the River Kwai, man.
Yeah, that's a movie.
Oh, yeah.
Gene Wilder's for me is just because he can, just to get a little specific about how he influenced me, he's someone who can do insanity and absurd, huge, big choices, but they feel contained and they feel grounded in something that's real for him. So
He plays the whole spectrum. Young Frankenstein alone.
And the little subtle things that he does.
And he can just ramp it up and then take it down, and he's completely in control, and I love him forever. So yeah.
I would say, stretching back to Peter O'Toole and also the stage actors from classical tradition, but I would say every 6 months there is someone who is inspiration.
Yeah.
Also on the female side, there are just astonishing actresses who are just, I just in awe of their talent. And just
very good one.
Just the other night, I happened to see Benedict Cumberbatch in a new show called Patrick Melrose.
It's on Netflix, right? Somewhere.
No, I think it's on either HBO or the movie channel. It's just started, and in the first episode, he plays a drug addict, an English upper-class drug addict, and his work is unbelievable in it. It's jaw-droppingly good. So, I mean, I would say in terms of inspiration, it's constantly good actors to watch from, learn from.
I'm a big fan of sketch comedians too, just to see them work on their feet. Like, and you mentioned women, Melissa McCarthy and Kate McKinnon, man, are just like they're just born with this special kind of talent. It's amazing to watch.
Yeah, I would say Billy West, definitely. Frank Welker. And definitely agree with what Chris is saying, that there is so much good stuff being done now. Like, it used to be that you could pick out a couple of actors from generations and just go, that's the one right there. That's the amazing performer and an amazing performance. But every week, every couple of months now, you see some show and you just go like, who is this now? Who's taken all the talent? It's inspiring and sometimes intimidating, but it's also wonderful because I think we're in such a golden age. There's so much entertainment being made that it's just opened the gates for people who might not have had an opportunity to wow us with some incredible talent. So it's hard to pick. There's a lot of the classics that you just go, yeah, that's what kind of inspired me, but now I'm inspired when I, almost like directors and actors, and you just go like, oh, this is amazing. What next?
Yeah, I think in the 50s, Marlon Brando in Streetcar Named Desire.
James Dean.
Turned James Dean, and then, when Robert De Niro in Raging Bull, I think that knocked every actor back on their feet, just watching.
Al Pacino, Dog Day Afternoon, man.
There's all kinds.
On Meryl Streep.
I'm sorry to...
Yes.
I'm sorry to you're all listing such wonderful actors and talent here at Renaissance, but I'm concerned for people who also want to ask questions.
Thanks, James. That's our answer. Hey, James. What's your name?
I am also James.
Hello.
Hey,
Also James.
I have a question for Richard Newman. Yes. So, when I first heard you playing Cranky Doodle on My Little Pony, I recognized your voice. I recognized you from the new Punch-Out game for the Wii.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you played Bear Hugger.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah! Could you tell me what that was like?
Oh, it was one of my first video games, and I kind of walked into it having auditioned for it. They said, yes, that's the voice we wanted, and then I was in the studio with this script that was basically just a bunch of, one word or a punch or a reacts and stuff like that. I think my voice was very, very sore by the time the session was over. But again, it was like 4 hours of my life, and then I was basically done with it, right?
Can I get a timber?
Timber!
Thanks also, James.
Thank you also, James.
What's your name?
Hello, my name is Brian.
Whoa!
Hello, Brian.
Sorry.
Welcome to Earth. It's a pleasure to be here.
My God, put down that gauntlet. What's your question?
My question is actually for Chris Breton. Could you improvise Star Swirl the Bearded being absolutely baffled by the mere concept of the Hayburger?
Well, that was probably grounded in reality. I was probably baffled by, trying to understand what I was actually saying. Yes, that was probably, and that was probably what was needed unconsciously. So
that's a no.
I don't think that was intended. I think that was just pure luck.
All hail luck. Thanks, Brian.
Hey, Brian. Farewell.
Hi, what's your name?
Hey, my name is Combo Breaker.
Hey, Combo.
My question is for Mr. Newman. Working with Transformers. Working on Beast Wars and then My Little Pony, you have a fellow actor who did the same thing, Scott McNeil.
Oh, Scott.
What is it like working with him? 'Cause he seems like such a character.
He is. He's one of the funniest, warmest people in the world, and so talented. It's ridiculous. I mean, any show that he's in, he's got to have at least 4 roles in it, or he won't even show up. But he's wonderful to work with. He's a very generous gentleman. The only thing is that nobody in Vancouver wants to audition after Scott. So it's basically, we all try to get in before he does, because he'll spend 2 hours in the audition room. The first half hour, he's just warming them up. And then he'll audition for every role in the show, including the women. No problem with self-esteem. But he's a great guy. He's a great guy. Absolutely love working with him. He did brilliant work in Beast Wars on 4 different roles.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We are officially speaking in overtime, so I'm guessing we got like 5 minutes, so
Okay.
we're going to have to go for
Rapid
really
fire.
quick
Talk
questions.
fast. Here we go.
Okay,
So we're gonna get these last guys in. We can do it.
Lightning round.
All right, I can be really fast, so I'll make it quick.
Don't tell us do it.
It's for all 5 of you. This is just one word, question, answer. Recently, I saw Avengers Infinity War, and it was really amazing. What is your favorite Avenger for all 5 of you?
Favorite Avenger.
Favorite Avenger.
Mrs. Peel.
Nice answer.
Yeah, good stuff. I also like Mrs. Peel. Yay!
Let's try.
I got there first.
I have no idea.
Our favorite Marvel comic hero, if that makes sense.
Iron Man.
Against all odds, I really ended up really liking Captain America. Yeah, he's the heart of that franchise, in my opinion.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
All right. Next. Name. Question.
Hi, I'm John. Many of your characters experience a moment of doubt that promotes their change into whatever that happens to them. Would you say that there is a certain good side to doubt in that it allows you the wisdom to actually change your course?
Absolutely.
Yes.
100%.
So long as you don't give into it too much and
Don't wallow in it.
The idea of personal fallibility is really a good thing to hang on to. Yeah.
The best trait a person can have is the willingness to change their mind.
Yeah.
Thanks.
There you go.
Thank you.
Cool.
I'm Christian, buddy, but I'm Christian.
Christian.
Yeah. I have a question for Chris Britton, and I want to ask is, can you say full of a stitch, throw yourself next time, and we'll be done with you, just like in the Lord of the Rings?
Could you repeat the sentence?
Full of a stitch, throw yourself in next time, and we'll be done with you.
Oh, it's from
the Lord of the Rings.
It's from a scene where a guy knocks a rock in a well and makes a lot of noise. Fool of a stitch, throw yourself in next time, and we'll be done with you.
Fool of a stitch. Throw yourself in next time, and we'll be done with you.
Thank you.
Not fairly good.
This one's for all of you.
What's your name?
Oh, it's Nate Sample.
Hey, buddy.
Thanks, Nate.
I have a question, and it's, well, have you got any messages from Hasbro saying that you're going to be voicing an episode of My Little Pony anytime soon?
No spoilers.
Let's keep this very vague because we don't want to give spoilers, but
Spoilers.
basically a yes or a no, and it's only what we've heard just now, not forever.
Well, it's fine because it's not how it works anyway.
Oh.
I was going to say, like, it would be great if Hasbro just reached out and said, like, we want you. But how it goes is that, you know, the show will put out the emails to our agents, and then the agents will get us to audition, and we will send in the audition, then we'll go in, and then we'll do it, and then we'll get an email back.
And we don't know which episodes will be in probably until the week before. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
So something to look forward to.
Yeah, but we'll have to wait and see.
Thanks,
you.
Nate.
Thank you.
All right, last
but not least.
Hello, my name is Josh.
Hi, Josh.
This question has more to do with art in its whole. It kind of came with what Chris was talking about earlier. Throughout history, we've had many artists like Bobby Brown, Chris Brown, where they've had issues with their life, where they are not exactly the nicest person.
They beat women, is what you're
To put
saying.
it mildly,
yeah.
So should art be connected to the artist, or should it be separated and you enjoy the art?
Oh, no, I've got an answer for this. When people are shitty people, sorry for the language, I am 100% ready to be done with their art because their behavior often stifles or crushes art that could have existed, and I am happy to find more art from better people.
Very well done.
So, because I struggled with that too. I had, various artists in various, media that I was a fan of and struggled for a little while. And then I heard a lot of discussion by women saying, like, but what about these people that had been, that had never got a chance to make art? What if it had been better? And I was like, yeah, we're not running out of art. So I'm happy to look for better art from better people.
I agree, but I find it very difficult for art that has come before that I already appreciate, that has influenced me. And then I find out some of the people who are my heroes were actually monsters. I'm a big fan of the movie Chinatown, but I don't even remember, I can't even think of his name. Roman Polanski, yeah. Like, I'm not a fan of Roman Polanski. I'm not going to support anything he does going forward, but it's a weird thing. You know, we don't erase history books when bad things happen, right? And we can learn from things that happen in the past. We can study Chinatown without exalting Roman Polanski. The Cosby Show was a very influential show and gave us a visibility for black families that we didn't have before, especially affluent families. And I think that was an important part of the 1980s television landscape. But I'm not going to shake Bill Cosby's hand, that's for damn sure. You know what I mean? It's tricky.
And I think those are examples of like ensembles. You know, because a lot of people went into, for example, I feel like we can look at Bill Cosby's stand-up and just be like, no, tainted.
Right.
Tainted.
But the show was made by hundreds of people who
exactly
still deserve credit for.
Chinatown,
Yeah.
I can be like, you know what?
Thousands of people.
Amazing performances, tons of creative people involved in it.
Yeah, he doesn't deserve the
Yeah,
credit.
they don't get to, and it happens when shows now, currently today, you know, like people, like on House of Cards, for example, people were like, don't just cancel the show like that, because there are hundreds of actors on that show, there are thousands of crew members and people whose livelihoods depend on it. They don't deserve this because of one person.
And how amazing that Robin Wright is going to lead the next season. Like, that is...
And that's it's a perfect example of just like, oh, okay, bye, shitty person. Let's put somebody in the spotlight
who deserved it all along.
I'm sorry to cut in, but we are very much out of time. Even though this is a very positive and relevant message, this is still being debated with the Lord of the Rings and the production treatment in New Zealand. So this is an ongoing debate, something to be very good and aware of. Unfortunately, time is not always our friend.
Men, support women, believe women, demand equal pay for women.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can't do it alone. We're in a position to ask for that, and we should be.
Thank you so much.
All these talented actors will be signing autographs at 1 o'clock, I believe.
Correct.
So, go get your place in line. It fills up fast, trust you. But everyone, thank you for taking part in this panel, sharing your thoughts and experiences.
Thank you so much. Great question. Hey guys, I want to ask you a favor at the autograph line, okay? Some of the lines, especially for Ashley, get super long, and then you have to line up to all the other things again. If there's a short line you want to get in, or someone else wants to get in that line, tell me you're willing to save a spot for someone who wants to run and come back. Will you say I will?
Yeah. I will.
There you go.
Thanks, guys. Be kind to each other. Thanks so much.
And everybody, thanks, Silver Quill.
Thanks, Silver Quill. Silver Quill. All right, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick.
Okay, yeah.